Welcome to Yahoo Sports Daily. She's Caroline Fenton. I am Jason Fitz. The W is getting closer and closer to playoff matchups. We got some big news last night. We got some good games. We got some terrible news that we want to get everybody caught up on as we start by recapping some of what happened in the WNBA last night. Caroline Fenton, Jason Fitz. Aces started Alyssa Smith out for the season. Now, we knew when she went down with the injury on Sunday that it could be bad, but we didn't know how bad it would be. It was a non-contact leg injury. They didn't disclose the exact injury or whether it will require surgery, but we now know that she will be out for the season. And for the Aces, Caroline, who just haven't been themselves this year, I'm left to wonder how now they manage sort of this injury situation to be the best version of themselves moving forward.
Yeah, this is a really tough break for the Vegas Aces. And look, Alyssa Smith is not in that big three, that core of Asia Wilson and Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray. This team will ebb and flow as those three ebb and flow. But just because she is not part of that fundamental foundation of what the Aces want to do offensively doesn't mean that she's not wildly important for what the Aces want to do. The Aces are a significantly better rebounding team when Alyssa Smith is on the court versus when she's not on the court. She's been averaging about 7 rebounds per game. So that is going to be missed. Some of those second chance scoring opportunities. Alyssa Smith also, and Becky Hammond has been very strategic in some of her late game lineups that she likes to put out in the court, kind of like the closers, so to speak. And Alyssa Smith was a really big part of that and of kind of that late game strategy. And you're going to need that when you're inevitably playing in some of these really close games once we get into the postseason, when everyone's exhausted, when everyone's tired, when everyone is playing incredibly physically, and when every single game matters. So, while I don't think this necessarily takes the Aces out of championship contention, as long as you have Asia Wilson in an Aces uniform, you're going to be in championship contention. But I mean, the Aces moved on from Kennedy Carter at midpoint through the season, now known Alyssa Smith. She's going to be out for the rest of the season with an injury. They tried to go in on the DeWanna Bonner sweepstakes, but DeWanna Bonner decided to go to the Las Vegas Aces. And now the period to acquire players that are eligible for the postseason, that has come and gone. That's passed. So the Aces don't have very many opportunities to supplement their team, to supplement that roster, and to plug in what they're going to be missing in Alyssa Smith at this point in the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, at this point right now, as the Aces are built, you're right. She's not part of the big three, but one of the problems the Aces have had night in and night out is where did they get their depth from? Where did they get any other scoring from? And to me, the Aces were built last year in the playoffs kind of like a baseball team in a short series where you look at it and say, hey, as long as we've got a great pitcher, we can trot out there a couple of times in 3 games, we'll be fine because we'll just cheat the system a little bit and make sure that we put the right person on the mound. The cheat code has been Asian, her ability to come out and just say, okay, I'm going to make sure we win this game and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. I just get really nervous when we see more and more put on the shoulders of Asia, which is the inevitability of this, and less trust for anybody else on the roster. I think it's worth at least noting because you mentioned the injuries that have limited this team. Well, if you just look at points per game, and I'm just stat box reading right now. Once you get past Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, and Chelsea Gray, the other two that you mentioned are hurt. The next points per game you're getting is Jewel Lloyd at 7, right? So like there just isn't a lot of production anywhere else on this team, and that makes me nervous as hell going into these playoffs. So look, I'm not going to turn around and tell you that Asia can't be Superwoman. I just think that it's asking a lot for Asia Wilson every year to save the franchise. Becky Hammond and Asia Wilson can do a lot. I just wonder at one point they just turn around and say, hey, we even saw it in Mahomes, where eventually Mahomes is like, guys, help me out a little bit. Right now, I think the Aces are looking around saying, somebody help me out. It just so far doesn't feel like this has been the same magical season we've seen for them over the course of the last few years. I know it's stupid to say I'm out on the Aces. It's just at some point, Caroline, it's death by a million cuts on this as I continue to look at it and say, my God.
I'm not going to say I'm out on the Aces because it is still in Becky Hammond we trust, and it is still in Asia Wilson we trust. And I don't think that you're saying that you're out on the Aces either, because we have seen that this team has found another level. consistently can find another level late in the season and into the postseason. So, very much so, I think that the Aces are still a championship contender, but it's who do you trust? Who can you go to outside of that big three? I think it's also important to remember, and this is something that Cassandra Nugley and I talked about on Hoops 360. You can find that on the Yahoo Sports YouTube page and your preferred podcast platform. Thank you. This is a really competitive field in the WNBA postseason. It was not that long ago that we would see several teams, a handful of teams in the WNBA postseason that were below 500. All 8 teams in the WNBA postseason have already clinched, and the New York Liberty are the 8 seed, the bottom seed, and they're sitting at 23-16, comfortably above 500. So we have every team in the WNBA postseason above 500 that are wildly competitive. I think we have the longest list of legitimate championship contenders that we've had in a long time. The WNBA is just deeper. The talent is spread out amongst the league more now than it ever has been. So I'm not counting the Aces out in the slightest. You would never see me doing that. It is a more competitive field.
Two things can be true, right? I'm not counting them out, but by God, I'm nervous. We see the playoff matchups right there. When we look at this playoff matchup, which of the matchups are you most excited for?
I think I am more excited or most excited if the playoffs started today. Obviously, we know they don't. We still have the FIBA World Cup break. We still have a handful of games at the end of the season. Yeah, things can change. We've seen a ton of jockeying. Just look at the standings right now. The Lynx have a 3-game lead on in the number 1 spot in the WNBA, but the rest of the field is decided by a game or a half a game. So it's really, really tight. Things are going to change, but if the postseason started today, I'm looking at Lynx Liberty and I'm kind of rubbing my hands together, getting ready to pop my popcorn and eat it like Kelsey Plum does. Because these are 2 teams that has some recent history, right? The 2024 WNBA Finals, Lynx and Liberty. There was a late foul called on Alana Smith late in that game, which sent the game to overtime, which allowed the Liberty to come back and win that game. We even heard Cheryl Reeves say this bleep was stolen from us. It was a very contentious, very controversial ending to the WNBA Finals in 2024. So you're looking at the New York Liberty. I mean, a team that just won a championship a couple of years ago, a team with so much raw talent, a team that's just been there before with Stewie and Sabrina Ionescu and Jonquel Jones. Leonie Febish is back on the court. So a team that is so experienced, a team with so much talent against the big bad Minnesota Lynx that have been the best team in the WNBA all season. Like, that is the matchup to me.
I mean, we pull that matchup list up again, and I think we all see the real matchup there. Caroline, I love the fact that you're being smart, you're being methodical, you're being measured in your take. It's everything you just said was so good. The playoffs start in late September. There is one matchup in this list that we all see that could come in late September that would bring the sports world to a halt. Now, I'm going to say right out of the gate, I hope we get it, and I hope we don't all at the same time. Atlanta versus Indiana. I mean, anytime that we get Angel v. Caitlin, that's what we want. But also, I'm already exhausted by the thoughts of Atlanta versus Indiana. From a basketball standpoint, by the way, as great as Atlanta is playing right now, and as great as the Fever are playing right now, it is rare. And we do this so often when we sit there and say, well, that was really the championship. I do think that we would get championship caliber basketball from these 2 teams. There's a difference between, all right, that's just a playoff matchup, but it's sexy because we got Angel versus Caitlin. That is not the case. You have 2 teams right there in Atlanta and Indiana that are built in a way that I think, frankly, can beat the Aces in the series right now. I think both of these teams are capable of winning a chip. That makes this even bigger on the matchup board. Like, we're going to have the drama. We're going to have all the grifters on both sides. We're going to have all the people that have something to say but have never put their eyeballs on a W game either way, but just want to inflame the conversation. Everybody's going to be enraged. You're going to have the yellers and screamers, but you're also going to have the basketball fans because these 2 teams are built so well. And I think they're built in a little bit of a contrasting styles. You're like, I want to see what Atlanta's defense, which is particularly lock it down, don't let you get that shot off, against an Indiana offense that shoots from wherever, whenever, and however they want. Like, I kind of think even if we take the sensational Days of Our Lives soap opera element out of it, from a basketball standpoint, from a styles make fight standpoints, this is elite. This matchup would be elite in the first round.
And surely everybody would be super chill about that. There you go. That's how
Oh
I'd be eating my
yeah.
popcorn. Thank you, Kelsey Plum. Everyone on social media would be super measured and be super chill about this Angel Caitlyn matchup, right? And that nobody's going to make it bigger than it is. It's not going to extend
No.
past the basketball court. There's not going to be any sort of, contentious fighting on social media. I'm so glad that everybody can just kind of chill out and enjoy the games.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's real. That's very. Don't Google it. I tell people all the time, don't Google
No,
it. It's fine. There will
no.
be
Take my word for it.
measured and intelligent conversations about that throughout. All right, so looking at the playoff matchups as we see it right now, which finals matchup would be most intriguing to you from an on the court perspective?
I think an on the court perspective, it would be Fever Golden State. That is unstoppable force
Mm.
versus immovable object. And I'm looking at the potential playoff matchups right now. I don't even know if the bracket would work out that way, but I'm just thinking hypothetically. Fever Golden State. Fever is on track to have R is whatever it is. Grammar. The Indiana Fever are on track to have the most efficient offense in the history of the WNBA. They have the highest scoring offense of any team in this league, and it's by a pretty significant margin. You have Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark, who are, good for 25 plus points a game. Caitlin Clark can hit from literally anywhere. This offense is the best in the WNBA and one of the best that we've ever seen in the history of this sport. And then you turn to Golden State. Golden State is a defensive force. They are stifling defensively. That's really what has gotten them to, if the playoffs started today, they would have home court advantage. It's because of how good their defense is, how unselfish they are, how many bench players they can reliably go to. If you look at the results last night, the Golden State Valkyries held the New York Liberty to 60 points. 60 points. The three lowest point totals for the New York Liberty this season have all come from Golden State. So we're talking about an offensive juggernaut against a defensive lockdown, shutdown type of team. I love that clashing of the styles. So I would be fascinated to see that matchup.
You are so right yet again, but I will throw one, and maybe this cheats the question a little bit, but I'll throw one finals possibility. Just hear me out. All right. We get to
Okay.
the finals, and what do we get? We get Minnesota taking on the Aces. In that process, we get Olivia versus Asia. Asia, the MVP. I'm going to buy that Asia wins the MVP this year. But then we get this moment, this crowning moment, where Olivia, in her rookie season, is able to take down the Aces with the Lynx. They're able to win the championship, and they do it while Olivia goes out and dominates the series. And it feels like this crowning moment where all of a sudden, not only are we looking at the current Mount Rushmore in Asia and a player that I still think has MVPs left in her bag every single year if she wants them, but she's taking on the young gun and Olivia, who turns around and says, "Not up in here. This is my league too. I need this. I need this.
I
I
love
need
that.
this." Also, Minnesota, I think a loss in a series, and this is coming from somebody that I admit my fandom of the Aces. I think losing to a team like Minnesota would be an eye-opening moment for the Aces on the court about the way the team has been constructed. Because certainly the concept from the beginning has been, we are going to have the best player in the world, we're going to have the biggest stars in the world, and we're going to have the best coach that money can buy, and we're going to trust it works out. Basketball is still won with some level of depth. So getting run by a team like Minnesota that has that depth, I think would be an eye-opening moment for the Vegas franchise to look around and say, hey, it's not that we're doing it the wrong way. It's that we need to tweak what we're doing to account for the fact that in the modern NBA, more teams, more talent, more everything, you've got to have more depth. So I like Minnesota versus Vegas.
I love that by you. And let's just live in a fantasy world and act if these three things could happen. Olivia Miles wins Rookie of the Year. Let's just say Olivia Miles wins MVP. She has the second best odds. Now, it's a long shot. It's a big drop off from Asia to Olivia, but Olivia is very squarely in the conversation. And the Minnesota Lynx win a championship. Can you imagine?
Hmm.
I mean, we're talking about one of the single greatest rookie seasons that we've ever seen in the history of the sport, including Candace Parker's year where she won Rookie of the Year and MVP. But if Olivia Miles does both of those things and wins a championship, I mean, my goodness, history,
That is
greatness unfolding before our eyes.
Olivia Miles is such a star that now I just want to see exactly how bright that star can shine. I'll admit it. I just want to see how bright, how historic can this season be? Go ahead.
And I think we can admit too, if we're just talking about a great finals matchups, just in terms of ratings, just in terms of buzz, it's Caitlin Clark. It's Fever and insert this team here. It's Fever Dream. It's
Yes.
Fever Aces. It's Fever Lynx. It's Fever insert team here. People will come in droves to watch that woman number 22 right there. So just in terms of a ratings matchup, it's Fever and pick your poison.
Yeah, just before anybody at me, I love everything that she does. I love the Fever. I love everybody. I just like other storylines in the WNBA too. Doesn't mean that I hate anybody.
Not
We just
allowed.
gotta have a quality. We need that quick voice that comes in afterwards. It's like it gives you the legal disclaimer. It's like nobody was hurt. Like we need that at the
Yeah,
end of
yeah.
every WNBA segment just to shut the haters up. All right. We're going to keep the basketball news coming up. Some rumors coming out of the NBA about Steph and his future. We'll tell you about it next.
Are you surprised by this, that you still love it this much, that it still connects with you this deeply after all these years?
No, it doesn't surprise me actually. It really doesn't. But I've had to structure the relationship differently. Before, wrestling was everything. In coming back this time, though, I've really, really, truly just tried to focus on the enjoyment of all of it.
I don't think anyone would have lived up to the expectations that we as a population placed on Arch. We were imagining that this guy's going to come in and immediately be amazing and immediately win the Heisman and lead his team to a national title. And then right out of the gate, he has to play maybe the nastiest defense in college football with first rounders all over the field. And believe it or not, first time starting quarterbacks usually not very good against that sort of defense.
You see the isolated one-on-one routes, and when like the footwork is there, the timing and the space, it's like poetic, it's elegant, it's artistic, it's aesthetically pleasing, it's all that type of stuff. And then some of the acrobatic catches were just simply sensational. But he was just really frustrating to me when watching him as a prospect. He's one of these players that I so understand how you can fall in love and obsess and the high-end outcomes, and if it all hits, he's going to look like one of the route runners that we absolutely love.
You add Cam Boozer, who is going to be good right away. You trade for Jeremy Grant, who had a resurgence last season in Portland. Cedric Howard year two. Ty Jerome wasn't healthy last year, but he was great when he was at the end of the year. You bring him back this year in full. Adding Isaiah Stewart off the bench, a versatile big man who can shoot threes and offer defense. This is a deep Grizzlies roster. Like, there's going to be good players not getting minutes.
Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors are expected to discuss a contract extension that will keep him with the franchise for the entirety of his career. That per ESPN's Anthony Slater. Curry becomes extension eligible on Saturday. So, a legendary player with a legendary run with the franchise that will forever be remembered for its greatness. This is a beautiful, beautiful moment, Caroline, but we've been talking a lot about the possibility of Steph wanting to maybe possibly play somewhere else. Would he want to go, I don't know, back to Charlotte and his career there? So you're in Charlotte. What's Charlotte's pulse and reaction to the possibility that Steph never makes his way back to the Queen City?
You know, I was driving around listening to local sports talk radio the other day, and I could hear like a vocal kombucha girl meme of like, no, that would never happen. But if it did, no, we won't get our hopes up. But what if it did? It's a fascinating conversation because I do think if Steph leaves Golden State to go anywhere, it would be to complete the Charlotte prophecy, right? There's a Curry jersey in the rafters at Spectrum Center in Uptown Charlotte. He's from Charlotte. He is such a huge part of the North Carolina basketball community. He gives back to North Carolina a lot. So I feel like that would be the one place. You know, I don't think that Charlotte Hornet fans would be like freaking out and crying in the streets if Steph does in fact sign this extension in Golden State and not come back to Charlotte. But I do think that there was just this little glimmer of hope of what if? What if Steph Curry comes back? Think about all of the buzz. Think about all of the excitement. Think about some of these great young players on Charlotte's roster right now getting to learn from and be mentored by Steph freaking Curry. I think, I think Charlotte fans probably understood that it was very much so a long shot. And that's why, some of the sports talk radio hosts that I was listening to, they weren't letting themselves get too high or get their hopes up too much about this possibility. But Steph signing an extension in Golden State, I think would kind of take the wind out of the sails here, just a little bit, just temporarily, because the idea of it was fun. The possibility was fun.
I feel like at some level in this process, it's like, what's the point? I mean, I get that we suddenly care about a player playing 1 year or one team his whole career. Okay, I don't. I don't think if a player wants to go play somewhere and have fun, I don't care. If a player wants to play his entire career in one place, fine, that's great. But like, are we really supposed to be now buying that Steph staying with Golden State his entire career is a great story if the last several years of his career he's barely on a play-in basketball team? Like, frankly, I'd rather watch Steph compete for championships than watch him barely compete to try and maybe make the play-in because his team isn't good enough to actually compete with the best of the best. Look, it's not my decision to make. It's Steph's decision to make, just like it was KD's decision to make to go try and play for a ring in Golden State. And I respect every athlete for making the decision for whatever they want. I'm not going to prop somebody up on a pedestal for playing their entire career in one city when at least the last third of that career looks like it's going to be meaningless basketball. Like, when is the last time we watched Steph Curry in Golden State and genuinely thought, wow, I'm seeing the best player in the world on one of the best teams in the world compete at a Larry O'Brien level? It's been a minute, and now it's going to be even more minutes as we watch this fade off into the sunset. So I don't know. I look at all of this and I understand why people love the sweet story of a player staying somewhere forever. I love the sweet story of watching Steph Curry play meaningful basketball. So I don't care whether he does that at Oklahoma City or if he does that at San Antonio, if he joins the Knicks. I don't give a damn where it is. But the biggest problem I have is when if he stays at Golden State, I'm not sure we have a reason to give a damn at all. So what? Great players going to stay on great teams. If it makes him happy, that's all that matters. But for us as basketball fans, do we care about watching a perennial 10th seed type Golden State team just because Steph Curry has the magic of having accomplished greatness on that team a generation ago? I don't share that sentiment.
I think that there is a warm fuzzy that comes from a great player who led their team to a dynasty, staying with that team forever. There's something pure and special about that. Like, I'm not denying that in the slightest. But also at the same time, there's a certain point where trying to recapture the magic that was just isn't there anymore, and it becomes disappointing, and it becomes borderline kind of sad. Like the Draymond, Steph, Steve Kerr, those years, like those are gone. It's not gonna that version of the Warriors that was winning championships in the mid to late 2010s. That's not there anymore. You're not going to recapture that. So that's my question for the Warriors. You're going to re-sign Steph Curry. How are you going to make it worth it? How are you going to make it more than just a really good feel-good story? How are you going to make it more than when Steph Curry decides to hang it up and retire, he can say that he played for one organization his entire career? How are you going to reframe that conversation into Steph Curry played meaningful basketball in one place for his entire career? Because I think the point of re-signing Steph Curry isn't just, man, we love this guy. Oh, shucks. And of course, that's part of it. You love Steph. The fans love Steph. Steph brought this team to the highest of highs in the NBA. Of course, that meaningfulness is part of it. Vocabulary throw out the window. But also, I think part of it has to be, how are you going to make sure that you're signing him for more than just the warm fuzzies. You're signing him to legitimately contend for championships, to find yourself in the postseason. Because there were times last year when watching the Warriors was frankly difficult to watch.
I'm looking here right now. After they lost the finals in 2018-19, so over the last 7 years, they won it all in 21-22. Other than that, in that process, they have a conference semifinals loss, a conference semifinal loss, and 3-4 years of not even making the playoffs. Like that's what we're talking about. So he signs an extension and he continues. Steve Kerr flat out told us last year, our fans need to understand we are not built right now to compete with the Oklahoma Cities of the world. He told us that. I'm paraphrasing, but that was his point that he gave to the fans, a recalibration of expectation. What's changed that suddenly is now going to make Golden State a championship contender? I would answer to that, nothing. The rest of the West continues to advance, and Golden State still continues to be a great story that we could talk about from 2015, 16, 17, 18. That's great. And it has meaning to us. It has meaning to basketball historians. And look, frankly, anytime we can watch Steph play, it's a gift. What meaningful basketball is he going to play at Golden State? So to the point of, he gets to play with one team his entire career. That's magical for some people. It's just, if I have the choice of watching him play a few more years in Golden State that we will forget and we will just cut out of the montage of his career at some point. If I have the choice of watching forgettable Golden State basketball or Steph Curry as a, ring hunting mercenary added to a team trying to make a championship run this season, I want to see Steph Curry with the ball in his hands with 13 seconds left on the clock in late June with the chance to win a series that actually matters. That matters more to me than what just feels like the inevitable slow death of a career, because we love the magic story of, wow, Steph Curry, who's still playing incredibly high level basketball. He's just doing it for a team that can't match his moment.
I would also like to say for the record, because I'm sure that there are people out there rolling their eyes and saying, you don't think Steph's going to play meaningful basketball in Golden State? Well, is he going to play meaningful basketball in Charlotte? Fair. Law Murray just put out his NBA power rankings in The Athletic. Law Murray, friend of the show, does fantastic work at The Athletic. He has the Warriors currently 20th in his power rankings. The Hornets are 19th. No, not necessarily, a juggernaut. But he does view, at least on paper, where things stand right now, the Hornets just a skosh above the Golden State Warriors. So let's not act like this version of the Warriors is what the Warriors used to be. Let's not apply the 2017 logic of the Golden State Warriors to 2026. Because while we're saying we don't think that Steph Curry is going to play very, well, you might say rather that Steph Curry wouldn't play very meaningful basketball in Charlotte either. Well, he's not going to play very meaningful basketball in Golden State. So, at least where things stand right now.
Over the course of the last 4 years, the best they've done is third in their division, and the best record they managed to put up is 48-34. Last year, they were 37-45. I don't think we realize sometimes just how god-awful it has gotten for a team that has superstars on it and a legendary head coach. And we can look at all of that, but for what? For what? The Warriors are keeping everything together and keeping it all going this offseason. For what? If the expectation is supposed to be championships, they just aren't anywhere close to that. Right now, as designed, they are not even close, in my mind, to being a consistent, actual playoff basketball team, nonetheless a championship contender. I want to see the greats compete at the highest possible level. All right, plenty more time to break that down. We'll see what happens if we get more news on that contract extension. By the way, congratulations for getting paid, though. I love anytime anybody gets paid. Coming up, we will take a look at some professional lacrosse. Going to be joined by somebody that's going to break it all down for us. Kevin Brown joining the show next.
I know people talk trash about the PFL and say, oh, because you're in the PFL, you're nothing. The level of fighters in the PFL are just as high as the people in the UFC. And the reason you don't understand that, the reason you don't think so is because you're a casual. You're not a true MMA fan. You don't understand the game as much as you hope or you think you do. if I ever gave a damn about what somebody thought up until this moment, I would not be the champion.
Darian Mensah was not the only player who left Duke that day to go to Miami. His best receiver, Cooper Marquette, went with him. He was the best receiver in the Ivy League at Harvard in 2024. He graduates from Harvard. He hops in the portal, goes to Duke, and has 1,100 receiving yards at Duke last year. Well, now he goes to Miami.
Harvard to Miami. How can you not love this sport right now? This is fantastic.
They're my top offense heading into this year. I think you had them in your top 10 as well.
I mean, yeah, I had them 4. You had them number 1. So you did mog me on the offensive rankings for Dallas. But yeah, we're both really excited about this unit. And I mean, what's there to not be excited about? As long as the 2 receivers are healthy and Dak Prescott's healthy, and some of the role players taking a step forward. I mean, this team is going to absolutely smoke people on offense this year. What a weird quote. Like, we have the upside to be great. We could be really bad too. Is that that's a real quote, right? He actually said that?
He said that, and I gotta agree. I think it's maybe more likely they end up on the bad side. I'm not expecting a lot of wins for the Bulls this season, but they are in a fun zone right now, which is young team, low expectations, but probably a fun team.
Pro Lacrosse Talk tweets out, in 2001, Rams teammates Kurt Warner and Marshall Faulk finished first and second in MVP voting. Warner took home MVP with 43% of the votes, while Faulk received 35%. Will we see a similar situation with Michael Sowers and CJ Kurse regarding PLL MVP voting this year? We're going to get an insight into the Premier Lacrosse League MVP debate. Preview the PLL playoffs. We bring out Inside Lacrosse managing editor Kevin Brown. Kevin, thanks for the time, man. We appreciate it. Put in context the historic sort of moment we're seeing from these 2 teammates. Do we have Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jason, Caroline. It's MVP race for the ages here with these 2. Not usually you get 2 such valuable offensive stars on the same team. So Michael Sowers, CJ Kurse have really propelled Philadelphia Water Dogs to the top of the league, and they're the team to beat here in the PLL postseason. Sowers, just an incredible season. Like, there's not too many players that can rival a record-setting goal-scoring season like CJ Kurse had, and Michael Sowers' 2020 season, 51 points overall. His season, I wrote about it for Inside Lacrosse. They could be co-MVPs because of how symbiotic their benefits are. But the fact of the matter is, it's great comparison. Kurt Warner finished as MVP. Mark often go down. Sowers possibly being the MVP frontrunner at this stage, and CJ Kurse could be named the Attackman of the Year.
It's special when we can see that level of play from teammates. You mentioned Kurt Warner, Marshall Faulk. We're having that same conversation in the WNBA with Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell. I think about Mac Jones and Devontae Smith both being Heisman Trophy finalists in 2020 at Alabama. Those are the special teammates that really stick out in any sort of sport in your mind. In your opinion, or from your perspective, what makes each of them so great, and who would your MVP be?
I think I would definitely lean towards Sowers at this stage. He is the quarterback of the offense. The offense flows through him, and what makes him so great is his shiftiness. We'll get into some more mainstream sports player comps in a second here, but his shiftiness, not many can keep up with him. The defenseman who really could join his team in free agency. It was interesting hearing you guys talk about Steph Curry. Like, the Philadelphia Water Dogs have put together this Golden State Warriors-esque roster this season that they are just so loaded on both ends, offense and defense. When it comes to CJ Kurse, it's more of no matter what he does, dodging, off ball, cutting, outside shooting. He can score from anywhere, and his ability to fill the stat sheet can't go unnoticed. I'll throw out a really old time duo comparison to you guys. Lou Alcindor, kind of known as one of the best, if not probably the best college basketball career of all time. CJ Kirst had one of the best, if not the best, college lacrosse careers of all time. He comes in, joins Philly, joins Michael Sowers, point guard of the offense, like when they trade for Oscar Robertson, Milwaukee does. So a little bit of a different situation, but it's kind of cool to compare to. Kareem had the sky hook. CJ Kirst has got this season, and Sowers just all his assists with both hands. His lefty shooting has been unreal this summer. So both of them have been really awesome to watch.
I love this, and I love how digestible it gets. Like, this is where everybody can find somebody to relate to. We are going to do this. We're going to find some lacrosse relations to some of the other sports icons that we're looking at. So, Bill Belichick, notably a lacrosse fan. Who is the Bill Belichick of lacrosse?
Yeah, absolutely, Jason. Bill Tierney, the coach of both Sowers and Kirst for the Philadelphia Water Dogs. He won 7 NCAA titles. Kind of the inverse of Bill Belichick, who won his 8 Super Bowls at the professional level with the New England Patriots, looking for this new venture at North Carolina in the collegiate level. Bill Tierney looking for this new venture for the pro level. It took him a couple years to figure it out. Now he's the top of the league, and the comparisons are really interesting because, Belichick's known for this. Whenever you're facing him, he's going to find a way to take away your top offensive threat. Bill Tierney is kind of the founding father of modern defense in all of lacrosse, really. Slide and recover and what have you. So it's a cool comparison. Maybe not exact, but he is the legend of the pro and college ranks. Bill Tierney is.
I mean, they've even both got the arms crossed nailed down. Even their posture is the same. Okay, let's maybe get some hockey fans involved here. Alexander Ovechkin, all-time leading goal scorer in the NHL, a mainstay in hockey. Who would be the Ovechkin of the PLL?
Yeah, it's a great question, Caroline. Marcus Holman. His game keeps on getting better for the Boston Cannons here. He's 6 goals away for the all-time professional field lacrosse record for goals scored. So he's about to eclipse John Grant Jr. If he can get a sock trick in this first round game, it'd be impressive. But if he can advance, he has another chance to do it as well. So he keeps on getting better as the years go on, it seems like. Ovechkin kind of timeless with his outside shot, those slap shots in the office. Marcus Holman kind of has that same situation going on that right wing where he's so lethal from the outside. That righty sidearm shot, the passion he brings to the game is pretty unmatched at the professional level, and is just pure mentality and keeping his body ready. Now, he has won one back in 2017 with the Ohio Machine back in the MLL days. So he's looking for another in the PLL era with the Boston Cannons.
I feel weird talking about Ovechkin like he's so old when I'm older than he is. That's part of life. All right. So give me the PLL comp then for Darrelle Revis out there on Revis Island. Who's that guy?
Yeah, guy you're leaving on Revis Island in the PLL Dogs, but JT Giles Harris for the Denver Outlaws. He missed last game, so his health is something to monitor for this first round matchup, but he's an absolute animal. The 2022 Defensive Player of the Year is so hard to beat. Doesn't get slid to. He can match up against bigger attackmen and match feet with the quicker ones as well. And you saw Darrelle Revis do that when bigger wide receivers went up against him and the quicker ones too. He can lock down anyone. So JT Giles Harris is in the same vein. for the Denver Outlaws defense.
All right, what about AI? Maybe a guy that's a little bit undersized, but still a great scorer, but still has that kind of competitive edge and competitive toughness. Who's the Allen Iverson of the PLL?
Yep, I alluded to this one. Carolina, its ability is the split dodge in the PLL, whether it's dodging from behind the net or up top, on the wings, wherever he has his defenseman, he can get past anyone because he is so quick. His shiftiness, change of direction moves, and it's the Philly connection. He's a Philly guy. So it's great to connect him to a guy in the past like Allen Iverson who made that crossover so exciting for NBA fans. The Michael Sowers highlight tape is well worth the watch for anyone unfamiliar with either his Princeton days or any of these PLL highlights as well.
You can read him hanging out at Inside Lacrosse. You can follow him on social media at Kevin Brown 89. Kevin, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much for the insight on this. Going to be exciting to watch this on Saturday. We can't wait for it.
Great games this weekend. Thanks for having me, guys.
That's awesome. Great stuff from Kevin. It's going to be exciting. Always love that breakdown. Always a great opportunity to get in there and get to know the sport a little bit better. Coming up next, we're going to figure out what to expect from the playoffs, not in lacrosse, but the playoffs in the NFL. Never too early. What's the biggest difference between college fantasy football and NFL fantasy football?
Biggest difference is going to be the player pool. And we're doing Power 4 only here at Yahoo. That's 68 teams. You have 32 in the NFL. You know the entire rosters of these teams. When it comes to college, there's so much turnover and transfer portal moves, plus graduations, that every roster is in flux from year to year, and you're constantly reestablishing that continuity.
Somebody told me that, I think this is just a great line, said that you can't trust, obviously, the SEC to police the SEC and the Big Ten to police the Big Ten. So why doesn't the SEC police the Big Ten and the Big Ten can police the SEC? And I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect.
Well, Ross, let me tell you something.
Whoever said that is a genius. Make them commissioner of college football.
Please, God, let that happen.
Yeah.
Want to talk about the receivers as well. Tetero McMillan, I think star. Awesome. I think I was very high on him coming out of the draft. I think he's done nothing but make me solidify what I thought he could be. True X, got some yak ability as well. Yep. He was, racking up explosive plays on inbreakers and just really, really cool player. Just you don't see athletes this big and this fluid, and that's what's really fun about him.
What gives you confidence that Bo Nix can bring another Lombardi trophy to Denver?
I love the way he competes. And when you're in a game, you're never out of a game. And that's how I measure quarterbacks. When it's 2 minutes on the clock and we have to have a drive, who is the guy in that huddle? Those traits where he can just flip a switch when you need it, down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and here comes Bo. So I love that about him.
Kyler makes the Vikings a playoff team. That is from Nate Tice earlier this week on Football 301, saying the Vikings will win 10 games. They'll finish better than the Packers, and that with a healthy O-line play, creative play calling from KOC, Kyler Murray's in for a big bounce back that can lead Minnesota to the playoffs. We've both been skeptical of tiny Kyler in the past. How much are we willing to reassess our outlook on the Vikings? I'm going to be honest, Caroline, when Tice says something, it scares me. I'm like, what did he know? It's like you watch a kid in math that gets the answer, and you're like, he's smarter than I am. What's he know? Are we suddenly changing the answer on one Kyler Murray?
Hey, look, if I disagree with Nate, I know I'm wrong. Because Nate Tice has more football knowledge in his pinky than I will ever have in my entire body. But I will say, I'm not counting out the fact or the possibility that Kyler Murray could have a career resurrection under KOC in Minnesota. We saw it with Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold spent a couple of years with KOC, then all of a sudden he wins a Super Bowl in Seattle. Daniel Jones comes in as a backup under KOC, and we saw Daniel Jones look like an MVP contender with the Colts at the beginning of last season before he got hurt. So I'm not saying we have two players, two sample sizes of guys that we have just written off as terrible, as backups, as guys who were not starting quarterbacks in the NFL, all of a sudden turn around and look not just like starting quarterbacks in the NFL, but high-level starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Kyler Murray is kind of that same kind of guy. We've written him off as, he stinks. We've written him off as that guy's not a starter in the NFL. So why can't Kyler Murray be that next one in line? So I'm not counting that out as a legitimate possibility. But the size is a concern about Kyler Murray. We saw that as an issue in Arizona. There were times he couldn't see over the offensive line. That doesn't change under Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, or KOC. Like, you don't just grow taller just because you have a brilliant offensive mind at quarterback. But when you do have a brilliant offensive mind at quarterback, that's the point of the X's and O's. That's the point of a great coach, is being able to overcome maybe some deficiencies in your game, cover those up, and highlight the great things about your game. I mean, Kyler Murray was a Heisman Trophy winner and the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft for a reason, because he does have legitimate talent at the quarterback position, because he will have Justin Jefferson, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL that he's throwing to. So if the offensive line can't hold up, like, yes, I can see that. I just am not going to bet on that. I'm not willing to go that far today, because we have seen a lot of bad from Kyler Murray, and because the NFC North is a gauntlet. Like, if I have to bet on any team in the NFC North, I'm going to the Bears, I'm going to the Packers, I'm going to the Lions much more willingly than I am going to bet on the Vikings being a playoff team or a team that can win that division.
We're stacking too much benefit of the doubt for me to get there. He measured in at the combine at 5'10" and an eighth. So generously, he's
don't forget that eighth.
Don't forget that eighth. Generously, he's 5'10". So what impact has that made on his career? Well, 3 times in his career, he's played every game in the season. 4 times in his career, he is not. You look, in fact, the 2 of those 3 times were his first 2 seasons in the league. Since then, 14 games, 11 games, 8 games, 17, and then 5 games last year. So to me, I'm looking across this saying, so you're presuming that a small quarterback is now going to have the physical capability to make it through an entire season. Also, while we're talking about just the numbers in the past, I know Arizona stinks, but nothing changes the fact that in his entire career, he's had 1 winning season as a quarterback. He went 9-5 his 3rd year. He went 8-8 his 2nd year, so we'll call that one break even. Every other year, losing record, and most of the time, not even close. I mean, look, the Cardinals looked around with the new coaching staff and said, well, one thing we know is we don't have a quarterback. Now, I realize KOC gets benefit of the doubt, rightfully so, for what he's done with other quarterbacks in the room. But we just presume that every single quarterback is going to have redemption over KOC. I guess my pushback to that is, if it were that simple, wouldn't J.J. McCarthy be the starting quarterback this year? He's not. It's not for a reason. Not every quarterback can be redeemed. Maybe, just maybe, KOC made a bad mistake when he let Sam Darnold go. Maybe, just maybe, he made a bad mistake when he turned around and decided that J.J. McCarthy deserved the starting job moving forward. And then he put himself in a situation where the Kyler Murray acquisition was the best option out of a lot of bad choices. I think bad decisions got us to the spot where now we have a quarterback you're stuck with, not the quarterback you wanted. There's a difference in that conversation. There's a difference in the tone. There's a difference in what it means. So no, I'm not buying Kyler Murray with the Vikings stock. I'm not buying it all. I think the Vikings are a very talented football team. But you know what? They were talented last year too. And what did that result in? It resulted in wholesale change at the quarterback position, especially in a division where it's easy for me to stack together why the Lions can be better. It's easy for me to stack together why the Bears are going to continue to get better. It's even easy for me to stack together why the Packers can continue their rise. It is not easy for me to stack anything on the tiny shoulders of one Kyler Murray. Have I mentioned he's small? So I'm just saying, like, all of these things together just doesn't get me to there. The Vikings are favored to pick up the win over the Packers at home to open up their season. Now that we've had more time to sit and think on it, Are you buying that? Are you buying that the Vikings should actually be the favorite over the Packers in week 1?
One more thing, just in fairness, because you mentioned Kyler Murray's record throughout his career in Arizona. Fair point. But also, I do want to point out Sam Darnold's records: 4-9, 7-6, and then 2-10. That was his career with the Jets. He was 4-8 with the Panthers. He was 8-2 with the 49ers, but he was a backup, and that's the 49ers. So I would say that's a whole lot more to do with the 49ers than it is Sam Darnold. Then all of a sudden, 14-3 with the Vikings, 14-3 with the Seahawks with the Super Bowl championship. So maybe, just maybe, we can blame the organizations far more than we can blame the quarterbacks. Because do any of us think that the Arizona Cardinals are a competent organization? No. Again, I'm not putting all of my eggs in a Kyler Murray basket, but I do just want to be consistent here that sometimes quarterbacks don't have great careers, and it has a lot more to do with the organization and the coaching than it does their ability to play the quarterback position. But looking at the Packers-Vikings spread, I was shocked when I saw the Vikings were favored. I mean, I said if this was a neutral site game, I would have laid the points on Packers -4.5. And then I thought, okay, maybe it's Packers minus like 3.5, maybe Packers -3, since it is on the road, and we'll give the Vikings a little bit of the doubt there with having that game at home. The fact that the Vikings are favored leads me to believe there's two potential things going on here. Either we are totally and completely overvaluing the Minnesota Vikings and Kyler Murray, or we are undervaluing the Green Bay Packers. Like, maybe there's just something I'm not seeing here. Sure, you're not going to have Micah Parsons, and yes, you lost Jeff Hafley, your defensive coordinator. So I do think it's fair to maybe see this defense have some growing pains, maybe a ramping up period at the beginning of the season. Yeah, you can totally sell me on that. But to the point where the Vikings are favored, I do not understand that in the slightest. I don't care that it's in Minnesota. I don't see where the math's there. What am I missing, Fitzy?
Yeah, no, you're not missing anything. I am stunned by this, and I agree with you. I think Vegas has gotten this flat out wrong, and I can't imagine why this is where everybody's leaning. A lot of times I can look at it and say, well, public money sort of influences these things week 1, and so maybe the public is really high or low on a particular team. I just can't imagine public money wanting anything to do with this. And look, I think two things can be true. I do believe that it's going to be easy, because I think Ty said they were going to get to 10 wins this season. I want to stress this. 10 wins doesn't necessarily mean what we think it means. A couple of years ago, the entire North won a lot of football games. Last year, they took a step back. If you were listening to the show a year ago, I predicted that step back by the entire division. Now I expect everybody in this division to feast. And part of the reason is who they get to feast against. So, no, I don't understand the week 1 line, but I do understand the win-loss totals for some of these teams being a little higher. I do understand Nate seeing 10 wins because the divisions that they drew in this process, the NFC North drew the NFC South and the AFC South as their two respective divisions they're going to play this year. So we know everybody in the division is going to play, to use your phrase that I love, the crummy, crappy NFC North. We know that. We also know that every team in this division is going to get the opportunity to play the Titans, who I think are an easy win for all of the teams in this division. They're going to get the chance to play the Colts, who might end up being an easy win for everybody in this division. They're going to get the chance to play the Jags in Houston. We'll see. But I look at the just non-conference schedule, the non-division schedule for these two teams. When you draw the NFC South and the AFC South, I can get you to 6 wins out of those 8 games for Minnesota. The problem is I can get you to 6 wins out of those 8 games for the Packers, for the Bears, and for the Lions too. They are all going to pick up, in my mind, 6 wins just based on beating the snot out of the NFC South and beating the snot out of at least half of the AFC South. So yeah, I can get you to 10 wins. I just think it's going to take a hell of a lot more than 10 wins to actually win this division.
And also, let's not forget, the Vikings weren't the worst team in this division last year. The Lions were. So the Lions get the better draw in the NFC South and the AFC South. And trust me, there are some crap teams in there. So let's do that. Let's go game by game, because I think sometimes, just far too often, I'm not saying that Nate did this in the slightest, but I'm saying far too often we as football fans will say, oh, that's a 9-win team. That's a 10-win team. We go too much off of vibes and not as much off of matchups. So let's go game by game. Let's find 10 wins for the Vikings on their schedule. First game against the Packers, I'm going to say that is a loss for the Vikings. What say you, Jason Fitz?
Yeah, I agree. That is a loss.
On the road at the Bears.
That is a loss.
That's also a loss. They start 0-2. I do not disagree. On the road at Tampa Bay. I think that's kind of a toss-up. Okay, let's say win over Tampa. Dolphins, I think that's a win.
Yep.
Saints, on the road at the Saints, I'm going to say that is a loss because it's a really tough place to play.
I would say that's a win, but that's fine. We could say that's a loss.
I will put win or loss. That'll be a toss-up game. Colts.
That's a win.
Win. On the road at the Lions, I'm going to say that is a loss.
Agreed.
Bills at home, I'm going to say that is a loss.
Agreed.
On the road at the Packers, I'm going to also say that that is a loss. In November, it's cold.
Yep, I'm in.
Okay, 49ers at home.
I mean, I think that's a loss, but I could be talked into a toss-up.
We
can give him a win for it.
A toss-up as well. We'll give him a win.
We'll
Why not? That's a long road trip. Falcons, I think they could win that game.
Yep.
Panthers, not Packers. Panthers at home.
That's a win.
Okay.
That's a win.
Poor Bryce Young. On the road at the Patriots, I will say that is a loss.
Okay.
Lions at home. I'm going to say that's also a loss. And get swept by Detroit.
Yeah. Yep. I'll give you that.
Commanders at home, I'll give them a win.
I give them a win there. Yep.
On the road at the Jets, that's a win.
A win.
And then final game of the year against the Bears. I'll say on paper that should probably be a loss. We never know. Like, Bears may clinch. They could sit their starters, but just for argument's sake, let's just go ahead and call that a loss.
I'm with you.
Okay, let's count up the wins then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we had a toss-up game with the Saints. Let's give that a win. That's 9 wins.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think 10 wins is crazy at all. But I don't think 10 wins gets them into the playoffs.
That's the thing is, like, I don't think 10 wins is crazy at all either. But without going through every single game, I would just quickly read off the Lions in their same division. Start against the Saints. Then they take on the Bills. Tough one. Then they get the Jets, the Panthers, the Cardinals. Like, the Lions could
it's 5 wins right there.
4-1. Yeah, they could be at 4-1, 5-1 without even trying. Later in the season, they get the Titans. Right? They get the Giants later in the season. I mean, without going through every single game, I can get the Lions to 8 wins without even blinking. So I can get the Lions to 10 wins pretty easily also. That's the hard part about this. Is like everybody in this division is going to feast on really crummy, crappy opponents.
And let's not forget, too, 3 teams in the NFC West last year won at least 12 games. Let's look at the NFC East this year. I think we all expect the Eagles and the Cowboys to both be playoff teams. So 10 wins sounds like a lot. 10 wins sounds like it probably should get you into the playoffs, but it's crowded at the top in the NFC.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking across, and that's the other part of this conversation that I think is at least worth mentioning. I say it to you all the time, Caroline. There's a difference between wanting your team to be a playoff team and wanting your team to be a truly good football team. We honestly know what the difference is. There are going to be some truly great football teams in the NFC this year that are going to be absolutely epic. I can't put the Vikings on that list. It doesn't mean that they might not win some football games. It just means I can't put them on that list. When we talk about greatness, one person I can't put on that list, Jori. Jori is trying to join us next. We'll get her thoughts on the Browns, on CTE, on the NFL, on everything coming up next.
Are you surprised by this, that you still love it this much, that it still connects with you this deeply after all these years?
No, it doesn't surprise me, actually. It really doesn't. But I've had to structure the relationship differently. Before, wrestling was everything. In coming back this time, though, I've really, really, truly just tried to focus on the enjoyment of all of it.
I don't think anyone would have lived up to the expectations that we as a population placed on Arch. We were imagining that this guy's going to come in and immediately be amazing and immediately win the Heisman and lead his team to a national title. And then right out of the gate, he has to play maybe the nastiest defense in college football with first rounders all over the field. And believe it or not, first time starting quarterbacks usually not very good against that sort of defense.
You see the isolated one-on-one routes, and when like the footwork is there, the timing and the space, it's like poetic, it's elegant, it's artistic, it's aesthetically pleasing, it's all that type of stuff. And then some of the acrobatic catches were just simply sensational. But he was just really frustrating to me when watching him as a prospect. He's one of these players that I so understand how you can fall in love and obsess and the high-end outcomes, and if it all hits, he's going to look like one of the route runners that we absolutely love.
You had Cam Boozer, who is going to be good right away. You trade for Jeremy Grant, who had a resurgence last season in Portland. Cedric Coward year 2. Ty Jerome wasn't healthy last year, but he was great when he was at the end of the year. You bring him back this year in full. Adding Isaiah Stewart off the bench, a versatile big man who can shoot threes and offer defense. This is a deep Grizzlies roster. Like, there's going to be good players not getting minutes.
A new study of former NFL players' brains found CTE in nearly 25%. What do experts say concerned current players should do about that? I asked around and was surprised by some of what I learned. That tweet came from Jori Epstein, who wrote an incredible article you could check out on Yahoo Sports about it. Jori joins us now. We're going to get into all things NFL, but let's start there, Jori, because when I saw 25%, I don't know, my jaw hit the floor. When you started researching this, what stood out to you?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because on one hand, you've got these brains that were donated because of concerns about CTE. So the prior study by some of these same researchers had 110 of 111 finding CTE, and now it's 1 in 4, which researchers I talk to really say they feel like that's probably a little more reflective. Then the question becomes not just, is there CTE in the brain, CTE being this abnormal clump of proteins in the brain that they can't find until after you're dead, but what do we do about these symptoms we're seeing in players in their lifetime? Because if you can't figure out definitively if someone has CTE in their lifetime, what can you do? And so when I talk to researchers, and I talk to someone from the Harvard football players health study, I believe, and they're telling me you start to see these symptoms, and no one's doubting that traumatic brain injuries and head collisions are bad for you. But what if head collisions are causing low testosterone and sleep apnea and depression and all these different conditions that could be treated before all of a sudden you're 50 years old? And not only do you have this history of concussions, but you also have a history of 30 years of their effects not being treated. So I think that's really where the research is headed now. And you saw that in the NFLPA's email to players that I obtained, which is that they don't want them to feel hopeless, not because they're saying there's no degeneration, but the same way that if your knee's in really bad shape when you stop playing, you should go get a knee replacement. Obviously, your brain is a different level of import, but you can do something about some of the symptoms caused from head injuries.
And it's fascinating. And while I think their findings are really scary and are very harrowing, it's important studies and important information that they're finding. We just saw a tweet up there that Matt Hasselbeck, of course, former NFL quarterback, is participating in a study to diagnose CTE in the living. Why is there so much focus now on diagnosing it while players are still alive or former players are still living?
Yeah, I think we all know, and Fitz, you certainly know after your summer, that the more information we have, knowledge is power, and the better that we can understand what's going on in our bodies and brains, the better we can treat it. And so symptoms are one thing we can treat, but I think sometimes if we only see symptoms, like we're all going through life every day, so much is going on, you might not realize that you're a little more irritable. You might not realize that you're a little more anxious, or you might think it's more environmental and not something because of your brain chemistry. And so if we know that CTE is associated with these symptoms, if you can now say there's the pathology, which is that like scientific presence on the x-ray of these conditions, and you're having the symptoms, then the treatment can look a little different. And quite frankly, players' concerns about doing something about it might change, because they might say, you know what, clearly the x-rays are telling me I need to do something. It's not just in my head, which sounds maybe a little bit the wrong word because it is in their head.
Jori, so follow me here, because when I first got to ESPN, I was stunned working with some former players who would say, hey, I don't know anybody that has CTE. Nobody in my family has CTE. We all played football. I'm not even sure it's real. When Guardian Caps first came out, everybody, not everybody, but there was a large portion of former players that went to social media to mock the concept. Now we see Guardian Caps being worn more and more in practice and even in games. As you talk to players, are players becoming more receptive to this information or more concerned?
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of conversation among current players this week about this study, which might sound crazy, but I will say Kyle Hamilton with the Baltimore Ravens talked to Sports Illustrated and had a really interesting note, which I thought reflects kind of the player sentiment I've heard through the years. That being, Kyle Hamilton said he doesn't think he wants his kids to play football. He's like, but they essentially are going to have these opportunities because of what I did that I didn't have. And so I would say, are players concerned? There's some degree of concern, and I think it's important for there to be transparency about the risk the same way when we get into a car or different things, we understand potential dangers. But I think it's almost a place of privilege some of us come from to be like, never play football, because a lot of the players I work with, financially, professionally, personally, wouldn't have the opportunities, wouldn't have guaranteed food on the table, a roof over the head, and access to a college education without this. And so I think that you have to view all of this in context for a lot of these players.
We did talk to, on the show, Dr. Marvin Roll, who played in the NFL and is now doing a lot of research on, the effect that game of football and sports in general has on the brain. And he said, look, football is a great game, not only for opportunities financially and career opportunities, but also, you build so much of your personality, you build so much of who you are, so many of your morals, friendships that you build from having this kind of brotherhood in football. So I thought that was also a fascinating perspective from somebody who's played the sport, but has also seen, unfortunately, what the sport can do to your body. So fascinating research, important research that's happening in the game that we love. But I also do want to hit you with some football questions as well. You've been on the road this summer, hitting training camps across the country. The Cleveland Browns named Deshaun Watson their week 1 starter over Shedeur Sanders, despite pushback from the fans, the booing that we heard in the preseason, obviously the lawsuits against Deshaun Watson, and also some not great play that we saw from Deshaun Watson on the field as well. Help us understand, why did Todd Monken make this decision? Why is Deshaun Watson the week 1 starter in Cleveland?
Yeah, I think there's 2 elements to this. There's what we all think we would have done in that situation and why the Browns made this decision. And like you said, Caroline, I really focused in my reporting on why the Browns made this decision. Let's explain to people why they did this, whether or not you agree with them. And I think when it comes down to it, this wasn't a, hey, you guys have the exact same skills, exact same strengths, who's better at it. It's the Browns felt like Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders offered something a little bit different. And what they were solving for their week 1 starter, and I'll get back to that in a second, is who was going to be able to operate that silent count at Jacksonville. They're on a road game, Jacksonville Jaguars, have the pre-snap operation down, and really just have all of the ducks in a row for a pretty young team, including rookie receivers. They felt like Deshaun Watson was going to help them more pre-snap. That doesn't mean they necessarily think that Deshaun is the better pure passer. That doesn't mean they think that he has the best upside. They thought for week 1. And while I do recognize that Todd Monken said this isn't going to be a week-to-week decision, he also said when he announced that Deshaun Watson would be starting, Deshaun will start for us against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Later, he said in that same interview, ultimately, this is about week 1. And so I think between those comments and when I talk to my sources around the building, there's kind of this element of, I would be very surprised if we don't see Shedeur Sanders start a game this season, and a lot of games this season. The question is that week 3? Is that week 7? When is that happening? And really, part of that will depend on how Deshaun Watson plays in weeks 1 and week 2 before they have their home opener week 3 among fans who clearly Deshaun Watson does not have a good relationship with right now.
Jori, I think we could clip off a conversation last year where I asked you the same question. What's all this mean for Dillon Gabriel? He was drafted in the 3rd round to Shedeur's 5th round, played well in the preseason last night. Does Dillon Gabriel have a future in Cleveland or anywhere else?
I think he does. And I think those 3 touchdowns and everything last night really put him in position to say, hey, it's hard to not keep him as your 3rd quarterback, particularly forget play or good play, Deshaun Watson has significant injury history since getting to Cleveland. And so if you have that level of injury that you're banking on, well, what if you lose him and you get rid of Dylan and all of a sudden you have Shador and then Taylor Green? So I would be very surprised if Dylan is not there as a third. And I think that you really need someone like that. I still think I kind of view the Browns quarterback decision twofold, which is that one is, how are you a functional team this year? They believe that the offensive line is significantly upgraded from what it was last year. They drafted 2 receivers in the first and second round. They're hoping that the pieces around the quarterback make it a little less difficult, even though it's a very tough position, for the quarterback to have at least some degree of functionality in the NFL. But all of this also is really about, this team isn't a rebuild. They can't say it publicly. We all know it. Teams are in different stages of their life cycles, and they need to be competitive by 2027. They have 2 first-round picks in the 2027 draft right now, and it's supposed to be a really strong class for a quarterback. So if you are kind of in the back of your mind thinking, hey, if we don't feel like we for sure have our answer this year, we're drafting someone likely in the first round at quarterback for 2027, to go get someone else right now, is that really the resource you want to use and take away from the resources to be competitive next year? I wouldn't if I were in charge.
Do not blame you in the slightest, and I don't disagree. Do you want to switch over to the NFC side of things? Because I'm having this mental battle with the Eagles, Jori, of we've seen Jalen Hurts throw several interceptions in the preseason. I know it's the preseason, but it's all that we have right now. They move on from A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts has yet another offensive coordinator. But also, the Eagles have won at least 11 games, and each of the last 4 seasons have been to a Super Bowl and won another one. So what kind of level of concern is even fair or valid for this Eagles squad this year?
Yeah, I visited the Eagles this week on Wednesday, and I sat down with players, including Eagles left tackle Jordan Mailata, who essentially was like, we've looked really good at some points this season, and we've looked really, bad at some points this season. But it wasn't about the interceptions. In fact, when I asked Eagles left tackle Jordan Mailata what play from Jalen Hurts' training camp practices most reflected what they could do in this new offense under Sean Mannion, and for context for everyone watching, Sean Mannion's coming in. Yes, it's a different play call every year, but this is the first time in Jalen Hurts' starting career that they're going to the Shanahan-McVay system. And so they had 5 years previously in the same general system, even with different play callers. They're switching up what they're doing at their offensive line calls. They're switching up the degree to which the passing game is predicated on timing. It's going to look different, and it's going to be very different in terms of their responsibilities. All right, back to what Jordan said. So I said, what play do you think reflects that most? And I didn't ask him about interceptions, but Jordan said, you know what? I know everybody's talking about Jalen's interceptions. I love those. He was like, I feel like previously Jalen would have been a little bit nervous to mess up like that. And now there's no fear. He's not afraid to take a chance. And it's really setting the tone for all of us, which is so important because you have to make those mistakes and you have to try things. It's not even a mistake. You have to make those plays and try things and understand now that you're more of an anticipatory throwing system where a guy's going to be in training camp. That's what training camp is for. And so to me, I have a level of concern in that I think this could be a boomer bust offense because they're changing so much and we haven't seen it yet. But I am not concerned that he's throwing interceptions. I think that's necessary. The last note is, if you look at the first few weeks of their schedule, beginning with the Washington Commanders, the Eagles' early schedule lines up exactly what you would want if you are Jalen Hurts in an offense starting with a new coach. And so I think we should keep that in mind, that they should have some teams that are expected to be middle of the pack and below to get acclimated with this system.
As somebody that was just there, we keep talking about the addition of subtraction of A.J. Brown not being there, what it means for the locker room vibe. But you're also talking to players around Jalen Hurts, who is a quiet individual. Like, what are the vibes like? Do you get a sense of if this team likes Jalen Hurts, the human being?
Yeah, when I asked head coach Nick Sirianni, really, he was like, look, Jalen works. He's always the worker, and that's what you want, that classic cliche of when your best players work the hardest, that's what it is. And I think that's kind of what all of the players are seeing. For sure, Jalen's leadership style and his demeanor is not the same as, say, Dak Prescott, who I covered in Dallas, or Jordan Love with the Green Bay Packers, but there's not one way to lead. And I think ultimately we've seen this. If you win, that's really what people want from you. And so if you win, if you play well, I think that's what the guys want from him. If you don't do those things, the noise gets really loud in any city, and particularly in Philadelphia.
Let's go to closer to the West Coast then, in Denver. I saw Sean Payton clapping back on Jeff Schwartz for his criticisms of Bo Nix on Twitter. Strange. We've seen Sean Payton bring out life-size cardboard cutouts of Davis Webb, the offensive coordinator. Unique, definitely. What's going on in Denver?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Caroline, because I talked with Sean Payton when I visited the Denver Broncos, and he had told me some very entertaining stories last year, as Sean Payton is wont to do. And I mentioned one of them to him, and I'm like, so what do you got this year? Because, like, the story you told me last year is going to be hard to top. And you kind of see, like, the glint in his eye. He's like, I haven't told this story yet. And he tells me that for all these years when Davis Webb was on Sean Payton's staff and Sean Payton was the play caller, Sean Payton would kind of have Davis be his barometer. He's a former NFL quarterback, and Sean would say, hey, is there too much going in this install, or is it okay? And Davis would kind of have his glasses low on his nose and really be like, too much. That one's okay. 2, 3 in the morning, they're in these meetings. So one day, Davis Webb, their new offensive coordinator, new play caller, comes into the staff meeting, and in the corner sees a cardboard cutout about 6'4", Davis is 6'5", glasses low on the nose. Sean trimmed the ears, he told me, so that the glasses would be able to fit with his hair. I mean, like, there's commitment to the bit here. And his message to Davis was, what happened to that quarterback coach who was my barometer for how much was going in the playbook? Because Davis had a pretty complicated install the day before. And so now Davis said it's really a reminder, as you saw in the tweet on the screen just now, it's kind of this element of, yeah, there's some truth to it. It's funny, but it's also a really effective reminder of how you install a new system. And so Davis told me it is no longer in the staff room, kind of creeps you out if you like walk in and you think someone's there, but he did move the cardboard cutout to his office, and Sean loves when he walks by and sees it. So the cardboard cutout lives for now.
Do you think that this change makes the Broncos better this season?
I do. I think that the buzzwords around the league when I go to all these teams, and I visited 16 training camps and 3 OTAs, is motions, everything more modern, more play action, more under center. And I think that when you look at what the Broncos are going to do, both their offensive and defensive players are telling me, hey, there's going to be a lot more pre-snap motion, and that's going to make the defense have to hesitate a little bit with what's going on. You take that and you take them trading multiple picks, including their first rounder, for Jalen Waddle, and now they have this speed element that they think will take some of the defensive attention away from Courtland Sutton. And I think that obviously it's preseason game, but we did see that last week when Bo Nix was playing. He looks healthy from all accounts, and you have Jalen Waddle. It's 3rd and 5. He finds Jalen for 23 yards before the catch, and then Jalen, despite running so fast that he pretty much had to stop to catch the ball, tacks on another 12 yards after the catch. And so I think that he's really an element that should change what we're seeing beginning Monday night in Kansas City for the opener.
The AFC West is going to be lethal. Jori will be covering all of it. Jori, always great work, my friend. It's so good to see you. Thanks for hanging out with us. Try and get a little rest before the season starts. You can follow her on Twitter, X, @Jori Epstein, and, of course, read her all across Yahoo. We appreciate you, my friend.
Fitz, Caroline, great to be on with you.
You're the best, Jori.
Is the best, and she has crushed it this summer. You know, it's not the best, the Pro Bowl, but you don't have to worry about it, and that is a trend other sports need to follow. We'll tell you about it next.
I know people talk trash about the PFL and say, oh, because you're in the PFL, you're nothing. The level of fighters in the PFL are just as high as the people in the UFC. And the reason you don't understand that, the reason you don't think so, is because you're a casual. You're not a true MMA fan. You don't understand the game as much as you hope or you think you do. If I ever gave a damn about what somebody thought up until this moment, I would not be the champion.
Darian Mensah was not the only player who left Duke that day to go to Miami. His best receiver, Cooper Marquette, went with him. He was the best receiver in the Ivy League at Harvard in 2024. He graduates from Harvard. He hops in the portal, goes to Duke, and has 1,100 receiving yards at Duke last year. Well, now he goes to Miami.
Harvard to Miami. How can you not love this sport right now? This is fantastic.
They're my top offense heading into this year. I think you had them in your top 10 as well.
I mean, yeah, I had them 4. You had them number 1. So you did mog me on the offensive rankings for Dallas. But yeah, we're both really excited about this unit. And I mean, what's there to not be excited about? As long as the 2 receivers are healthy and Dak Prescott's healthy, and some of the role players taking a step forward. I mean, this team is going to absolutely smoke people on offense this year. What a weird quote. Like, we have the upside to be great. We could be really bad too. Is that that's a real quote, right? He actually said that?
He said that, and I gotta agree. I think it's maybe more likely they end up on the bad side. I'm not expecting a lot of wins for the Bulls this season, but they are in a fun zone right now, which is young team, low expectations, but probably a fun team.
The Pro Bowl was a joke, especially after players like Shedeur getting in. Shedeur caught a lot of strays when the NFL decided that they were going to get rid of the Pro Bowl. Like, the one player that suddenly killed this awful event was Shedeur Sanders. I don't know what we're doing here, but I do know one thing we don't have to do, which is ever sit and watch the Pro Bowl again. Glory be to God. It's been eliminated.
Praise be.
The Pro Bowl games are dead. Perhaps long overdue. No perhaps on it. Absolutely overdue. No one's sad about it. But we figured that maybe we could use this as, I don't know, a motivating factor. I think, as hard as I am on Raj all the time, call me Raj, I want your job. As hard as I am on Raj in the NFL, I think that Raj
did not know who you were talking about for a second.
Roger Goodell, obviously. I mean, like,
Obviously.
I feel like I call him Raj.
Didn't know we were on a
He calls
nickname
me
basis.
Fitzy. Like, no, it's like Raj and Fitzy. Oh my God, Raj and Fitzy is absolutely a dynamic cop duo. So, I'm high-fiving in. Raj is tapping me in, and I'm helping. Usually, I got to tell Raj what to do. He got this one right. The elimination of the Pro Bowl is what we all wanted. So thank you, Raj. I owe you an apology for one mean thing I've said about your work. So with the Pro Bowl games being dead, let's figure out what else in sports we could get rid of. What else this would motivate. Caroline, give me something you just want to see gone thanks to the Pro Bowl inspiring us.
Get rid of preseason polls in college football. Get rid of them. Crumple them up like a piece of paper and throw them in the trash. You know what? Get rid of preseason award watch lists too. Because why don't we, here's a thought, why don't we award players for what they did during the season? Huh? Anybody have a thought about that? Why don't we let the actual football tell us who's the number 1 team in the country and tell us who's the best quarterback in the country, who's the best offensive line in the country? I'm over it. I'm done with it. Because why do we let analytics and numbers and vibes tell us who is good this year? Why don't we let them tell us? Let's look at the 2025 preseason AP poll, shall we? Texas, the number 1 team in all the land. They didn't even make the CFP. Penn State, number 2 team on the land. It was also a big controversy that Penn State wasn't even the number 1 team preseason going into last season, and they fired their coach. LSU, the number 9 team in all the land, also fired their coach. South Carolina, the 13th ranked team preseason. They won 4 games. I don't know, not really worth 13th overall. 14th overall, Michigan. Yikes. Also, very famously fired their coach. Indiana was the 20th team ranked team preseason. And oh yeah, by the way, they won the national championship. What are we doing here? Why can't we all just acknowledge we don't know what the hell we're talking about in August? Why don't we let these teams tell us who they are? Why don't we let the season unfold before we start attaching numbers and analytics and rankings to all of these things? We don't do this in the NFL. So why do we do it in college football? It's dumb. It makes no sense. We can all just admit we don't know who's going to be good and who's going to be bad this season. So why do we need to? What's the point of a preseason poll?
Look, I'm going to take your idea and just stack onto it a little bit. Like, she tags me and I come running in and I'm like, you've got this. I'm just going to take it a little bit further. I want to get rid of all polls until the first playoff rankings poll that we get in October. I don't want a single poll in September either. Like, it takes a minute to figure these things out. The only people that benefit from the polls are ESPN and Fox that need to try and convince people why you should watch the games by putting little numbers next to them. Just watch the games. The games are going to be great.
We're smarter than that. We know what a good matchup is. Like, I don't
We
need
are.
numbers to tell me that Ohio State, Texas is an epic matchup early in the season. Like, I don't need the AP to tell me that. I can decide that for myself.
I love every ounce of this. I have appointed you commissioner of all things sports to make this thing happen. I will be your vice commissioner. Thank you very much. As vice commissioner, though, you took a sick day, and I walked up to the podium and I said, "All right, I get to eliminate something in sports. You've eliminated preseason things. I'm going to eliminate in-season things. I'm eliminating every All-Star game, and I don't mean some. I mean every single All-Star game and event. Take them, crumple them up, shove them you know where. I don't want them anymore. I'm talking about this. We're talking about the NHL All-Star game. Get rid of it. You really need
Which
to play
sucks,
Nations,
by the
because
way.
yeah, agreed. We all enjoyed Four Nations. You want to play Four Nations? Do it in the offseason. Make it an off-season event. I don't care. Don't need it in the middle of the season when I have actual hockey to take a look at. The NBA All-Star game has been a joke, but everybody, I'm not just talking about the All-Star game. Get rid of all of it. I don't want your dunk contest anymore. There's nothing you can do in the dunk contest that is going to be impressive. Once we got to the point that people were trying to dunk over multiple cars from lines that never meant to be dunked on, you just can't do anything. The dunk contest, gone. The three-point contest, gone. Let's have the W versus the NBA, gone. You need to do something like that to amuse us in the offseason. Schedule it then. Don't need it during the season. Just keep playing the games that actually matter. All-Star game, gone. Pro Bowl game, gone. Home run derby, gone. I don't need it. I don't need to see how many weird balls you can just hit out of the park for no particular reason in an arbitrary contest. I don't need it. I don't need it. You know what I want? I want baseball games. You know what I don't want? I don't want the All-Star game. So just give me regular games that count. Take the time, like halftime of a game. Take the time. I went to see a musical on Broadway the other day. They shut the lights down for 30 seconds, and they came back up and said, "How was that for our intermission?" And then kept going. Titanic was spectacular, by the way. Look, that's what I want. I want us all to blink, say, "Great first half. Let's go out there. Eat an orange, drink a Gatorade. Give me the second half of the season. I don't need your stupid, useless all-star festivities anymore. They are outdated, and none of it matters."
I don't disagree in the slightest. And anybody who would be, and I do love the MLB All-Star game. I am purist in that, right? But if they went away with it, it's not like my life would be overly impacted. Anybody who's pushing back on that and saying, no, you can't get rid of the All-Star games. If they just went away with them and nobody talked about it, there was no coverage of it, if they just quietly retreated into the darkness and went away with it and didn't tell anybody, would you notice? Like, genuinely be honest with yourself. Would you notice? Because I don't think that I would. Like, if the NBA just said no All-Star game and we're not going to tell anybody and we're just going to go dark for a little bit, I really don't think that I would notice. And if I did notice, my life would not be impacted for the worse. In fact, it might be better. My life might be better. I'm going to go back to the college football though. And I'm going to say that we do not need week 0 in college football. And ESPN's trying to do this thing where they're not calling week 0. They're calling it week 1, but we also have week 1 next week. So we just have 2 week 1s. That's just for marketing purposes. Nobody is observing that. Like, everyone's just calling it week 0 because that's what it is. And I will say, like, I think this is the best week 0 slate that we've ever had, or at least the best week 0 slate that I can think of in recent memory. We're getting a Power 4 matchup between UNC and TCU. We're getting a conference matchup and between NC State and Virginia. We have USC who's going to be playing, and that's going to be a team that has a ton of expectations this year. Even still, I don't need it. Just start week 1 this week. Get away with all of the butt-crack State University matchups. Go away with all of the cupcakes that happen in week 0, the games that nobody really cares about, but we act like we care about it because it's football on our televisions. Get away with it. Scrap it. Week 1 starts this week, which means all the week 1 matchups that we have, LSU, Clemson, whatever else we get week 1, just start that this week. We're all ready. We want football. We're ready for college football to start. We want football, real life football that matters on our televisions. Just go ahead and start it now. Push bump the season up a week. And then that way, whenever the CFP inevitably expands to 16 and then 24 and then 3,072, we're not going to run into the same issues that we might run into now, which is CFP games going up against conference championship games in the NFL. If you go up against the NFL, you're going to lose. It's as simple as that. So scrap week 0. because that's dumb anyway. It doesn't even make any sense. Week 0, like numbers wise, logically, that doesn't make sense. And just start week 1 this weekend.
I love that take by you. And by the way, I would add that I want to get rid of preseason games in literally every sport. Don't make me watch games that don't count. Make the games count. Practice, scrimmage. I don't care. Do your own thing on your own time. Make me watch games that count. I was going to do that for my last one. As you spoke, I realized, though, that there's something else that needs to go away, Caroline. I'm going to throw a curveball to our entire staff. You know what needs to go away? The Nathan's hot dog eating contest. And I was the sideline reporter for the Nathan's hot dog eating contest multiple times. I've never been recognized more for anything I've done than I was when I sideline reported the hot dog eating contest. But you know who ruined it? The Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Every single summer now, I get to have this same debate on what level of athlete Joey Chestnut is, because he's won 18 titles, and because they sit there at the beginning of the broadcast and they try and compare the Joey Chestnuts to the LeBrons and the Michaels combined. I can't have it. I won't have it. Mickey Sudo just won her 12th consecutive title by consuming 38.75 hot dogs, 10 buns. Joey Chestnut has won 18 titles with 66 hot dogs in 10 minutes. This isn't a contest. This is two people dominating. And instead of just letting it be really weird, did we eat that many hot dogs? Now all of a sudden had to be compared to Olympians, had to be compared to basketball players, had to be compared to all of these. Now I have to have the debate every summer on whether or not we can actually call, a magician as an athlete. Like, what are we doing? Like, he's an athlete because he's in a competitive event. So are violinists. That doesn't make them athletes. Got to do this every summer. It's not our fault. It's Nathan's fault for trying to make it something more than it was. Just let me watch the guys eat the damn hot dogs. They ruined that. Joey Chestnut, too good for the sport. There's no competitiveness to it anymore. It's just watching him gorge himself. At this point, I just want to see like South Park version of Joey Chestnut sitting there gorging hot dogs. I don't need this anymore. I don't need the Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Let it go. Let's just enjoy our 4th of Julys.
No, I disagree. We do need it because nothing says America quite like stuffing our faces with carcinogenic fake meat and carbs. And that is what we should celebrate in our nation. But I will agree with you. This whole debate of like, is it an athlete? Is it not an athlete? Like, it's like, just calm down. It's the same thing of like, cheerleading is not a sport. Like, literally just shut up. Have you tried just not talking?
If there's anything I'm sure of, I don't think I'm going to get another invite to be the hot dog eating contest sideline reporter again, but it was a fun
Probably
run
not,
while it lasted.
but that's okay.
Thank you so much. I've moved on. The smell, the smell. I don't need it anymore in my life. What's more American than eating a bunch of hot dogs? College football fantasy. That's right. Coming up next, we're going to get some expertise from the best expert in all the land. Eric Froton going to join the show. We'll get his help for your college football fantasy draft board. What's the biggest difference between college fantasy football and NFL fantasy football?
Biggest difference is going to be the player pool. We're doing Power 4 only here at Yahoo. That's 68 teams. You have 32 in the NFL. You know the entire rosters of these teams. When it comes to college, there's so much turnover and transfer portal moves, plus graduations, that every roster is in flux from year to year, and you're constantly reestablishing that continuity.
Somebody told me that this is just a great line. Said that you can't trust, obviously, the SEC to police the SEC and the Big Ten to police the Big Ten. So why doesn't the SEC police the Big Ten and the Big Ten can police the SEC? And I was like, this is perfect. This is perfect.
Well, Ross, let me tell you something.
Whoever said that is a genius. Make them commissioner of college football.
Please, God, let that happen.
Yeah.
Want to talk about the receivers as well. Tetero McMillan, I think star. Awesome. I think I was very high on him coming out of the draft. I think he's done nothing but make me solidify what I thought he could be. True X, got some yak ability as well. Yep. He was, racking up explosive plays on inbreakers and just really, really cool player. Just you don't see athletes this big and this fluid, and that's what's really fun about him.
What gives you confidence that Bo Nix can bring another Lombardi trophy to Denver?
I love the way he competes. And when you're in a game, that you're never out of a game, and that's how I measure quarterbacks. When it's 2 minutes on the clock and we have to have a drive, who is the guy in that huddle? Those traits where he can just flip a switch when you need it, down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter, and here comes Bo. So I love that about him.
You see it in front of you. We'll be using it as our very own cheat sheet this weekend. The top 20 players of the college fantasy football draft board, according to our expert, Eric Froton. Group led by 2 familiar studs at wide receiver, Jeremiah Smith, Malachi Toney, for more on everything you need to know before your college fantasy drafts. We bring on Eric right now. By the way, Eric, I will quickly give you some love. I was hanging out with some people yesterday, and they were asking me some fantasy football questions, and I pointed to you. You are the expert on all of this that we are all going to be cheating off of through this whole process. So let's start there. Why Smith over Toney for the top overall pick?
Yeah, well, just simply, I've had the opportunity to see Jeremiah Smith in person a couple of times, and when you have the opportunity to draft Julio Jones 2.0, you simply cannot let that go by the boards. The dominance, obviously Ohio State will be running roughshod over the Big Ten, and they actually have a tougher schedule this year than they usually do, which I like, because that means they're going to have to press in some of these games. They're going to have to press against Texas, in which Julian Sayin made his first start, and that was a uncharacteristically plotting affair last year between the two teams. I don't think that either of them are going to have that luxury. You're going to have to gas it up on both sides. So with Ohio State playing a more competitive schedule than they had in years past, and with Miami, they're going to be able to roll over the ACC pretty easily this year. It's not a matter of me not liking Malachi Toney. He's certainly a top 3 overall player in my estimation, but man, this will be our last time to get Jeremiah Smith. He's going pro after this year. You got to take it.
I mean, if you give me the options are Jeremiah Smith or Malachi Toney, my answer is just yes. Yes,
Exactly.
I'll take both. Before we get to more college fantasy football talk, I can't help but notice the chain around your neck. What are we sporting today?
Oh, well, I'm going to keep that until we get one of our later questions. Oh, yeah. Oh, I got a little something
Okay.
waiting here. I'm just going to give a little preview. Just a little preview.
That is what we in the industry call a tease. So back to the college fantasy football. Let's head to the running back position. Ole Miss running back Keyone Lacy is your top running back on the board. Why? What separates him from the rest of the pack?
Well, the man got 306 carries last year, spanning their college football playoff run, and 256 in the regular season. He was the top bell cow in all of college football last season. And with Ahmad Hardy being compromised due to that gunshot wound he suffered in May, and Caleb Hawkins, pretty much the other top 3 running back, making the leap from North Texas up to Oklahoma State right here. There is some projection involved in what we're trying to see what Mr. Hawkins will do. So I just feel like Keyone Lacy, you got Trinidad Chambliss back. You know, you have JDB coming in from ECU. I think he keeps the train rolling on the offensive side for Ole Miss. And they're simply one of the most potent offenses in the country and the most projectable when it comes to volume. And that's what I expect Keyone Lacy to get. So he is the number 1 overall running back.
So, Eric, I think it's really important to our audience that we, Caroline and I, are transparent about this is new for us. She and I have covered a lot of college football, but playing fantasy college football is new for us. So, you know, we've been doing this coverage portion a very long time. Trying to figure out how that translates to fantasy is different. I noticed when we look at your list of top 20 rankings, we got 2 wide receivers in the top 2. After that, 17 straight running backs. Now, I'm pretty not smart, but you don't have to be smart to figure out that that's got to tell me something. What are you telling me by 17 straight running backs? How should that impact my draft strategy?
Well, first off, I respectfully disagree. I think you're all brains and beauty, Jason. Do not discount yourself here. Not in my watch. No, I'm not going to accept
Humility.
But that humility. But the reason why is, you know, you have 68 Power 4 teams, right? And in a Yahoo standard league, you're only starting 1 quarterback. So the Arch Mannings, the Trinidad Chamblisses, they're not going to have the same impact that it would in a super flex format. So those rankings that you're looking at are geared to a 1 QB system, and you have 68 teams to choose from those quarterbacks. With the running back side of thing, it's always the most valuable skill position, right? So with running backs, you're looking to get 20 points per game. That's sort of the benchmark you're trying to achieve. With wide receivers, it's 15. You're not going to see, you might see one or two, Smith or Tony hit that 20 point per game mark, but it's very rare, especially in a half PPR format, which is the standard leagues. So what you're seeing is a parade of running backs throughout the first round and through pretty much the middle part of that second round before you start seeing a pivot to, an Arch maybe here and there, and, the Nick Marshes, the Cam Colemans, Jordan Dwyer, KJ Duff, Amari Thomas. That's the next sort of crop of wide receivers that are going in that range. So it's extremely important. You get to start 4 flex players. You're going to want every one of those flex positions, if you can, to be a running back because of the aforementioned 20-point ceiling as opposed to like the 15-point ceiling for wide receivers. So get your running backs early. You don't want to be relying on running backs that are down the board for less than effective teams. You're starting a guy from Purdue, it's that sort of thing. It's going to have real startability issues. How confident are you going to feel about, starting Abu Sama for Wisconsin against Notre Dame's defense? Personally, not pretty good. Not good at all. So you want to be taking the running backs who already have a projected role, dominant role on the better teams who are typically going to be able to run over their conference opponents.
I'm going to help everybody with the real question then out of this. If we're doing a snake draft on a 10-team league, which is kind of the average that we usually look at, if I'm sitting there with Malachi or Jeremiah with the first overall pick, it means I'm not going to get another pick until we hit around 20. Is there a running back that you really like that's going to be, in your mind, available in a lot of these boards in that 20 to 25 range for everybody that's snake drafting that thinks they hit a home run, but then they get to 20 and they're like, oh my God, I'm screwed?
Yeah, definitely. You're going to want to make sure that you're taking a look at one. If Aeneas Williams is there, again, we talked about Notre Dame. If you can get him in that second half of the first round, I think that's an absolute smash play. But if I'm going beyond that, that third round turn, Duke Scott, NC State. I mean, he's a Feldman's freak lister. Hollywood Smothers was the starting running back for the Wolfpack last year. He moves on to Texas. It's all Duke Scott. He put on, I guess, 12, 13 pounds in the offseason, weighing 223 with a reported 4.35 40. Woo! Certifiably Ric Flair numbers right there. Give me Duke Scott if I can get him in that early third.
Duke Scott and Hollywood Smothers, not just great running backs, but first team, all name team in college football running backs as well. You mentioned Arch Manning a couple of times. This is not just for the college fantasy fans out there, but also for myself as we look ahead to our college fantasy draft on Sunday. So don't sabotage me just because we're in the same league. When is the sweet spot to draft a quarterback, and who would be, outside of Arch, some other names to keep an eye on?
Yeah, it's a great question because, as we mentioned, if you're in a 1 QB league, I'm going to recommend that you wait as long as you possibly can. Sure, I like Arch just as much as anybody else. He is my number 1 overall quarterback. It's hard to imagine that Death Star, Texas, with Sark's been waiting for this potent offense to come for his entire Texas tenure. He's been waiting for this, and I think he's going to go and inflict as much punishment as he possibly can on the SEC, with Arch leading the charge. And he runs, you got to remember. And that's extremely important for the quarterback position, is getting somebody who has dual threat capabilities. The point being, of the 64 Power 4 quarterbacks last year to throw 200-plus passes, 33 of them ran for less than 200 yards. Those 33 quarterbacks averaged 15.9 points per game. Of the 19 quarterbacks who ran for 400-plus yards, they averaged 22.5 points per game. It's a massive chasm. And for that reason, you have to be fading any sort of pro-style quarterbacks. And it doesn't make me happy because, showtime, I have right here with me a Dante Moore autograph, 1 of 50, gold, Bowman University chrome. I bought this for $25, probably going for around $500 in mint condition right now. I love Dante Moore, but I'm not drafting him in fantasy because he doesn't run the ball. If you don't run the ball, chances are you're not going to reach at least the 20-point per game mark, and you need to be around 25 to be at the upper echelon of the QB position. You simply can't overinvest in pro-style quarterbacks. That goes for Sayan, goes for Dante Moore, that goes for Josh Hoover. You just don't have the upside. So I'm waiting for more dual threat components in my quarterbacks later. Maybe you get a Kamario Taylor. But I think that if I'm going for a quarterback who's going in right around the double-digit rounds, it's Keelan Russell for Alabama. He's been depressed, his value, all season because the potential Austin Mack, coming in to take that job, it was never a reality. It is Keelan Russell's job. He is a smoking value outside the top 20 right now. He's being selected.
All right, so before we get you out of here, one quirk in college fantasy that a lot of people may not realize is you can draft an offense. I love this feature. It's great. I think in a lot of ways it makes the game less intimidating for people that may not feel great about all of it. So what's the right strategy for drafting an offense for all the newbies?
Sure. It's very clear in terms of the way that we score the offense position. It's dominant teams who lord over the rest of their conference, essentially. So SEC teams aren't as effective as you're going to see for like the Texas Techs, Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, Miami, the alpha dogs of their particular conferences. And that is, frankly, number one, Notre Dame. We talked about it again. Look at that schedule. At some point, somebody has to have a conversation with Kurt Bavagua and say, what is happening? We need to get a little bit more talent here that you're playing against, because otherwise they're going to be in the same position they were last year, right? If you go and dump 2 games with that schedule, now all of a sudden you're on a 12-team bubble for playoff purposes. So that's not so great for their overall resume building, but they're going to run through that pseudo ACC schedule with the light, Notre Dame has to schedule better. You know what I mean? So they are just so much better than the rest of the competition. I think that's the way you're going to be looking at Notre Dame.
It is great stuff from you. As always, we are scared to death because you are playing in our Yahoo Sports Daily League. I cannot imagine.
We're set
Just
up
be
to
gentle.
fail.
That's all I ask. That is all I ask. Just be gentle. Everybody, don't forget, drafts are open now. So scoring starts with week 1, which is September 3rd. Week 0 not included. Week 1 is when the scoring starts on September 3rd. You can create a league with your crew, join a public league, play against other fans. If you're intimidated at all, fear not. The app will truly help you. Plus, you can look at Yahoo Fantasy Plus and Fantasy Ultra as ways to help you get through it. Eric, be gentle on us this weekend with our draft, my friend. We appreciate you hanging out with us. You're the best in the business for a reason.
Thanks, Caroline. Thanks. Appreciate it, Jason.
It's great stuff from Eric
Thanks,
Froton.
Eric.
As always, he's going to crush us. Or not, but we'll talk our talk, that's for sure. Could Lamar be leaving Baltimore? Stunning real information you need to know. We'll tell you about it next.
Are you surprised by this, that you still love it this much, that it still connects with you this deeply after all these years?
No, it doesn't surprise me, actually. It really doesn't. But I've had to structure the relationship differently. Before, wrestling was everything. And coming back this time, though, I've really, really, truly just tried to focus on the enjoyment of all of it.
I don't think anyone would have lived up to the expectations that we as a population placed on Arch. We were imagining that this guy's going to come in and immediately be amazing and immediately win the Heisman and lead his team to a national title. And then right out of the gate, he has to play maybe the nastiest defense in college football with first rounders all over the field. And believe it or not, first time starting quarterbacks usually not very good against that sort of defense.
You see the isolated one-on-one routes, and when like the footwork is there, the timing and the space, it's like poetic, it's elegant, it's artistic, it's aesthetically pleasing, it's all that type of stuff. And then some of the acrobatic catches were just simply sensational. But he was just really frustrating to me when watching him as a prospect. He's one of these players that I so understand how you can fall in love and obsess and the high-end outcomes, and if it all hits, he's going to look like one of the route runners that we absolutely love.
You add Cam Boozer, who is going to be good right away. You trade for Jeremy Grant, who had a resurgence last season in Portland. Cedric Howard year 2. Ty Jerome wasn't healthy last year, but he was great when he was at the end of the year. You bring him back this year in full. Adding Isaiah Stewart off the bench, a great, versatile big man who can shoot threes and offer defense. This is a deep Grizzlies roster. Like, there's going to be good players not getting minutes.
There's a very real chance Lamar Jackson isn't a Baltimore Raven after this season. Quote, it feels like Lamar has put himself in an NBA-style situation where he can do what he wants at the end of the season. That from Dominique Foxworth, and on the Dominique Foxworth show, actually a conversation that involved our very own Nate Tice. And it's important here. Dominique is tied in with the Ravens in an incredibly real way. Dominique is also the farthest thing from a hot take artist there is. So Dominique, I guess, has been saying this for a minute. I haven't heard it, but what he's talking about is the salary cap sort of construction of what's ahead of Lamar Jackson and the opportunities it gives him, Caroline, to go out and essentially decide his own future. He's got a potential out after this year in his contract. His salary cap number would be $34 million. So over $84 million next year. So they're going to be in a weird situation next year where the Ravens are going to have to decide whether to extend him or what to do with him. And even past that, franchising him would be incredibly difficult to do because franchising is based on the value that you had the year before plus a percentage. So $84 million. It jumps from 34.3 to 84.3 next season. There's certainly a long-term or no-term solution to Lamar and the Ravens.
And from the Ravens' perspective, it's going to be a long-term solution. I think that's why a bunch of that cap hit is in the 2027 season, because their intention was, well, we'll just go ahead and extend him, and then we'll spread that money out throughout the rest of the deal. If I was the Ravens, that's what I would do, because you don't just let an elite quarterback in this league walk. You don't let a two-time, could have been three-time MVP just walk out the door for nothing, especially considering Lamar has a lot of good quality, high-level years ahead of him. So if you're the Ravens, you're doing every single thing in your power to keep Lamar Jackson in the building. And if Lamar wants out after this season, what the Ravens can do is say, no, you're under contract. There's very little leverage that a player under contract does have in the NFL. So, if you're the Ravens, you're not letting Lamar Jackson walk, because you're not going into the purgatory of being quarterbackless in the NFL, because you look at the Jets, look at the Browns, look at the Dolphins. It's a really scary place to be when you don't have a franchise quarterback. With that being said, we cannot, in good faith, have the conversation about Joe Burrow weaseling himself out of Cincinnati when he's under contract through 2029. He has 2 more years on his deal than Lamar has. We can't have that conversation about Joe Burrow and then totally and completely dismiss this conversation about Lamar Jackson. Because we've had this conversation before several times about Joe Burrow, about him potentially going to the Rams or somewhere else if the Bengals don't start making the postseason and start winning. So I think that it's fair to at least have this conversation. Where the difference is, though, I think, between the Bengals and the Joe Burrow conversation versus the Lamar and the Ravens conversation, I think the Bengals are a dumb franchise. I think the Bengals are a dumb and bad franchise that have been saved by Joe Burrow over the last couple of seasons. They don't get to the Super Bowl without Joe Burrow. How many years of playoff, win droughts have they gone through before Joe Burrow finally beat the Titans in the 2021 divisional round of the playoffs? They're a dumb organization, they're a cheap organization, and they're an organization that I think would let a franchise elite quarterback out of the building. The Ravens aren't. The Ravens are a really smart organization. The Ravens are a well-run organization. There's a reason why the Ravens have been perennial contenders in the AFC with Lamar and before Lamar, and it's because they're smartly run. And I don't think that smartly run organizations let elite quarterbacks out of the building.
So, and I want to clarify, his current contract has a no franchise tag in it. So they literally can't do anything about where they're ahead of. So
that's
smart. They are literally in a, but that comes back to your earlier statement. I believe the Ravens are a smart organization. I believe that Lamar is brilliant with his own financials, because the number of times we've said, oh, he doesn't have an agent, he doesn't have this, he doesn't have that. What's he negotiating for? Oh, that we've yelled and screamed about Lamar's contract. His career earnings to this point are $187 million. He's set this year to make $34.39 million, and he is the rarity. The only other time I can think of that we've seen really this, Kirk Cousins made sure that he constantly got fully guaranteed money, and Dak Prescott put himself in a situation where the Cowboys had absolutely no leverage and were going to have to do whatever they needed to do to keep him in the building. You're talking about Lamar Jackson, a two-time MVP, that in the eyes of many should have been a three-time MVP, is one of the great quarterbacks of his generation, and in the minds of many, one of the great quarterbacks already of all time. And I understand that he hasn't won a Super Bowl. It doesn't matter. My guy's going to be 30 this season. He's going to be 30. He's going to be 30 going into next season. He's going to be 30 with an $84 million cap hit. He has put himself in a situation where the Ravens have no choice but to do whatever he wants them to do. Like, you're right. The Ravens are a smart organization. I think they've been outsmarted contractually every step of the way by Lamar, who got himself to right here, and now he can do whatever the hell he wants to. He could take a contract for less money if he wants because he feels like it. He could take a contract for more money if he wants because he feels like it. He can require that everything be guaranteed in his contract because why wouldn't he? At this point, what Lamar knows is that contractually, unless they get out of this deal, they have to pay him almost $85 million next year. So whatever he would in an extension would have to have so much money guaranteed that it makes him walk away from 1 year, $85 million. What does that number look like? I think right now, as much as we've spent the last 5 or 6 years playing checkers, trying to talk about Lamar and his contract negotiations, whatever it means, whatever it doesn't mean, what it did or didn't mean to not have an agent, what he really wants in negotiations, all the stupid conversations that have filled hours and hours of sports talk radio content. Through all of it, Lamar was playing chess. My guy got himself into a situation where now he can get whatever he wants, however he wants, wherever he wants it from, because Ravens won't. Somebody sure as hell will. You're talking about a two-time MVP that for all we know could go out and win a third MVP this year and none of us would be surprised. We're talking about a superstar quarterback in this league. Superstars don't hit the open market, and Lamar has now put himself in the situation where if he doesn't hit the open market, it's because he's been paid at a level we could never comprehend. Kudos to you, Lamar. You outsmarted all of us.
They're not going to do that, though. The Ravens aren't going to just let Lamar go into 2027, pay him $84 million and not have an extension on the table. There is absolutely no way that would happen. So while in theory, in what we have currently constructed in Lamar's contract, yes, but there is absolutely zero chance in hell, no way, that the Ravens are not going to extend Lamar before the start of next season. There is absolutely no way, because that solves a few things. One, you lock up Lamar long term. You get that much longer with Lamar. You squeeze his prime out of him. And what that also does is spreads that $84 million over the next course of 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it might be, however long the extension might be. That alleviates the cap, that keeps Lamar in Baltimore longer. No longer does it feel like we keep going back every couple of years and having this contract conversation with Lamar. So while as currently constructed, I do agree with you, a lot of things lend to Lamar's favor. That none of that is going to actually come to fruition. The Ravens are far too smart. The Ravens probably got into this new deal knowing that they would have an extension on the books before 2027 hit and before that cap hit would hit.
I would think so, but I know this. The most guaranteed money ever given to any quarterback in guarantees was Josh Allen for $250 million of his contract is guaranteed. Dak Prescott, $231 million guaranteed. Deshaun was a fully guaranteed $230 million. The reports last time we got into hardcore negotiations were that Lamar wanted a fully guaranteed contract. Now, I don't know. We don't know. None of us really know because he doesn't have an agent, so nobody speaks for him. But what I do know is this. I've been told multiple times by agents, look at the value that is guaranteed on the contract already, and that's where the numbers start when you're talking about annual numbers for guarantees. If you're Lamar and you're owed $85 million next year, what's it going to take in fully guaranteed money for you to sign that long-term extension? It's got to be more than Josh Allen got at $250, because I know that you owe me at least $85 million. You owe me $85 million for 1 year, or I can go do whatever I want. So my number starts at $260 fully guaranteed, or we ain't even having a conversation. This is going to be a wild, wild negotiation. What I've learned is that you and I need to go hire Lamar Jackson as our agents. That's what I know. What I know is we'll be back at 9 a.m. here on Monday. Have an incredible weekend. She's Caroline Fenton. I'm Jason Fitz. Thanks for watching Yahoo Sports Daily. Come back. See us again on Monday. Have a great weekend.